The story begins in November 2013 under the fluorescent lights of the Dubai International Motor Show. While the world's elite manufacturers were showcasing incremental gains in aerodynamics and hybridization, a booth belonging to a previously unknown entity called Devel Motors, or Defining Extreme Vehicles Car Industry LLC, dropped a conceptual nuclear bomb on the industry. The car sitting on the stand looked less like a road vehicle and more like a fever dream of a fighter jet merged with the Batmobile. It was low, impossibly long, and featured two massive rear exhaust ports that looked capable of launching a rocket into low Earth orbit. But the visual shock was only a prelude to the numbers. The claim was simple yet terrifying: 5,000 horsepower. To put that into perspective, even the fastest production hypercars typically produce between 1,000 and 1,600 horsepower. In an era where the Bugatti Veyron Supersport was considered the pinnacle of human achievement for producing 1,184 horsepower, Devel Motors was suggesting they had tripled it. Then came the speed claims. The car was said to target speeds exceeding 300 miles per hour, with some reports suggesting it could even approach 500 kilometers per hour. At the time, no production car had officially reached those numbers. To the seasoned automotive press, these were hilarious figures that seemed to have been pulled from a child's sketchbook. At the center of the Devel Sixteen's claims was its engine, a quad-turbocharged V16. This configuration alone is extremely rare, as most high-performance cars use V8, V10, or V12 engines. To support these claims, Devel Motors partnered with Steve Morris Engines, a company known for building extremely powerful custom engines, particularly in the drag racing world. Steve Morris Engines did produce a V16 engine that reportedly achieved over 5,000 horsepower on a dynamometer. This was a significant moment, as it showed that generating such power was technically possible. However, to put 5,000 horsepower on the ground in a rear-wheel drive or even an all-wheel drive configuration without melting the tires or shredding the transmission was considered quite literally impossible by modern standards. There were also challenges like heat management, drivetrain strength, aerodynamics, and stability become major obstacles at such extreme levels of performance. Yet the Alatar brothers, the founders of Devel Motors, stood by their creation with a quiet, unsettling confidence. You see, in the UAE, the pursuit of the world's first or world's largest is a cultural and economic flex. The Devel 16 was designed to be the automotive equivalent of the Burj Khalifa, a structure so tall it shouldn't be able to stand, yet it does. The Alatar brothers didn't just want a car, they wanted the world's fastest one. However, their background is not in automotive engineering, but in the soaring world of Dubai real estate. The family owns the Gavora Hotel, which at one point held the Guinness World Record for the tallest hotel in the world. This fueled the project with bottomless cash reserves, allowing them to survive years of ridicule and technical failures that would have bankrupted any other startup. After its initial reveal, updates on the Devel 16 were slow and often unclear. There were no full-speed runs, no official lap times, and no independent testing results. As time passed, the lack of concrete evidence started to raise concerns. The pricing of the 16 was curiously low. At approximately $2 million for the flagship, it was actually cheaper than many entry-level hypercar, despite claiming 5 times the power. As of early today, the entry-level Bugatti generally starts at over $3 million for the Chiron, 3 to 4 million for entry-level cars of Koenigsegg and Pagani. This pricing raised suspicion and led many to believe the car was merely a marketing tool for the Alatar family's other business interests. Eventually, the conversation around the Devel 16 shifted from excitement to skepticism. One of the biggest concerns was the lack of verified testing. In the hypercar industry, performance claims are typically backed by extensive data, track records, and third-party validation. The Devel 16 had none of these. Also around 2021 and 2022, Devel Motors began inviting high-profile influencers, including supercar Blondie, to drive what they called the production version of the 16. However, the automotive community immediately spotted something strange. When the door opened, the interior didn't look like a bespoke $2 million hypercar. It looked like a 2020 Chevrolet Corvette C8. The steering wheel, the center console, the buttons. They were all off-the-shelf parts from General Motors. Further investigation suggested that Devel had taken a mid-engine Corvette chassis, stretched it, and draped their fighter jet bodywork over it. Devel Motors eventually admitted that they were offering a V8 version of the 16, which would serve as the entry-level model. However, to the critics, this was the ultimate admission of failure. The car that was supposed to obliterate the world had been reduced to a Corvette in a fancy dress. Enthusiasts also pointed out the engineering challenges involved in achieving such extreme speeds. At 560 kilometers per hour, this force is equivalent to more than 22,000 times the force of gravity. Michelin, the only company with the equipment to test tires at these speeds, using a rig designed for the space shuttle, has never certified a tire for 350 miles per hour. Then, there is the transmission. Most hypercars use dual-clutch transmissions, DCT, for their lightning-fast shifts. However, a DCT capable of handling 3,700 pound-feet of torque would be the size of a small car and weigh hundreds of pounds. Devel's specification list mentions an 8-speed automatic, but there is no production gearbox on Earth that can withstand 5,000 horsepower in a road-legal package. Even Koenigsegg, the masters of power-to-weight ratios, spent years developing a bespoke 9-speed, light-speed transmission just to handle 1,600 horsepower. The only transmissions that could ever handle such power are found in top-fuel dragsters, and they have to be rebuilt after every 4-second run. To understand the scale of the Devel 16's claims, it helps to compare it to proven hypercars. The Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300 Plus is one of the few cars to surpass the 300 miles per hour mark under controlled conditions. Bugatti achieved this milestone through years of research, advanced engineering, and rigorous testing. The car produces around 1,600 horsepower, already an extraordinary figure. Compared to that, the Devel 16's claimed 5,000 horsepower and higher speed targets seem even more extreme. It highlights just how difficult it is to achieve such performance in reality. This comparison doesn't necessarily prove that the Devel 16 is impossible, but it does show how challenging its goals truly are. As of now, the current status of the Devel 16 remains in an uncertain position. There have been occasional updates, including new prototypes and claims of continued development suggesting it hasn't been officially cancelled, but it also hasn't fully delivered on its promises. Is it a groundbreaking project that simply needs more time to prove itself? Or is it an example of how bold claims can sometimes go beyond what's realistically achievable? Until those questions are answered, the Devel 16 will remain one of the most fascinating and debated cars ever created.
金钱看齐，墙上写着“心相连”的34